we had a rash of those robberies when I was in anti-crime and housing on the West Side. Like 3 Chinese takeout places, all within, and they would call up and they'd order like $50 worth of food.
Oh no, bring change of 100.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. That was the next thing. The poor guy would come with 2 shopping bags, filled with chicken and fries,
that's right.
Ketchup and hot sauce, and
I wish I had some of that right
now. And he'd get bopped over the head. They'd take the food, take the money, and this was going on and on and on.
Welcome back to Police Off the Cuff. Bill, what episode is this?
Shit, I think this is...
Come on, every day you call me up and
22,
you tell me what
this is going to be 22 and 23. So this isn't going to show until July.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have Irma. It's going to be 18 and 19. Eric Reynolds is going to be 20 and 21.
Homicide.
Right. Scott Wagner will be 22 and 23.
Who was the one before Scott?
Was Eric Reynolds.
Oh, okay. That's the Central Park 5.
Yeah, and then we should be international podcast stars. It's exploding. We're about to hit.
Before we start, I just want to say that we've both been getting a lot of feedback from a lot of positive feedback in the form of emails and a lot of Facebook messages. And to those who reached out and said how much they enjoy the show, I just want to say thank you.
So far, we're for that guy in a radio car driving in the hood who's listening to Police Off the Cuff, and it's given him hope in his life.
Somebody mentioned that it was interesting to hear a guest. Everybody's a big fan of Dan Bibb now. They'd like to hear a guest that wasn't actually a cop, but from he was a district attorney. So to hear the other side of it, or other sides of it, people have been saying that was really interesting too. So we're going to try to expand it and get people that were involved in law enforcement.
How about the precinct broom? Should we get him?
That would be a great one, man. That would be a great one.
I wonder if cops today know who the broom is. You think they still use that term?
Well, we covered a whole bunch of those terms a couple of episodes. Before I wanted to say one more thing before we bring on our guest. The fact that you called me. This is a cool thing about, this is why I love working with Bill, because we are the exact opposite people. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people say I'm really laid back. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I just cruise along, man. Maybe the pod has a lot to do with it, but I don't know, man. I just chill, man. And then the Bill is like, he calls me up. It's 12:45. I'm getting off the exit. Where are you? I'm like, I'm right here, man. He goes, oh, all right, because it's 12:50. I'm like, no, it's 12:45. Oh, yeah, you're right. I said, Bill, relax. You're chomping at the bit. I could see you, man. He gets all pumped up. He gets psyched, man.
And he walked in, and I had his tea ready for him, like a little bitch. I handed him his tea.
But you know what it is? You need that balance, man. I think we got a good thing working. And thanks for all the positive feedback that we've been getting. It's really much appreciated, and your suggestions are welcome. And on that note, what I want to do is I want to welcome in our guest. He's been highly touted by Bill. Bill, why don't you introduce him? You know him for a while now.
Today, I'm going to introduce Scott Wagner. He actually worked with me when I got transferred to the 2-3 squad in 1997. And he's an excellent detective. He's a hostage negotiator. And when he saw me posting this stuff on LinkedIn, I could see he was hinting that he wanted to be on the show. He loved the show too much that he wanted to be on it. So I said, Scott, let me find you a day, and I'll get you a date, and we're going to have you on. Anyway, welcome, Scott Wagner.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
What's up, buddy? I feel like I know you already.
I feel like I know you, too.
You're like my type of dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as when you go to a party and you're going to gravitate with somebody, you know what I'm saying? He's like, all right, that guy looks like I could, like, somebody
hang out with him.
Somebody I know from the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Where'd you grow up, Scott?
Brooklyn.
What part of Brooklyn?
I grew up in Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy area. The 7-1. And we were like the
What year was that? How old are you?
I'm 61.
Oh, yeah? You look good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm straight. I'm straight, though.
Were you the nice Jewish boy with the warehouse in Crown Heights?
No. It's funny. To this day, of course, I have a Puerto Rican wife, which, par for the course. But...
What are you? You Irish?
No, I'm Jewish.
Oh, you're Jewish?
Yeah.
100%?
100.
All right.
Cut and everything.
Cool. I could see you and Andrew. You guys gave each other. You were bonded. Yeah, you knew right
it's
away.
It's a secret handshake. But
did you know John Fish?
No.
Yeah, he was. I went to the academy with him. He got every Friday and Saturday off.
No, I wasn't. No.
You didn't go through with it?
No, because you know what? It's funny. Like to this day, my oldest daughter has an apartment in Borough Park. Actually, right around the corner from the 6-6. Can't be in a safer neighborhood. And she'll call me up and she'll say, "What's going on? Is everyone out? What holidays? I don't know. They took me off the email list. They took me. They don't text me anymore. I don't know. I have no idea. Alternate site suspended. Okay, that's it's good enough for me. Like I said, I was raised. Went to Hebrew school reluctantly, bar mitzvah, and then that was it.
There's a lot of my comedian friends. They are not. They're Jewish, but they don't practice, I guess, that much. Almost the same way anybody else would be.
My wife is Jewish. I wanted to pick a good earner when I got married.
It's the funny thing too. With my wife, one of her friends had said to her, "Oh, you're lucky you're marrying a Jewish guy," and she says, "Really? Why?" And she said, "Well, the money." He said, "Cop." What money?
If there's a fallback somewhere, you see, you got to have a fallback. God forbid it doesn't work out. You're in a tight spot. You could always, Dad.
Like I said, we weren't on the list.
You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be entrepreneurial, just in your blood when you're Jewish.
In your blood,
well, like I said, growing up where I grew up, all my friends were black and Puerto Rican. And basically, I was like an honorary member. I'm not going to lie. I carried a gun when I was 15.
Yeah.
It's on the bottom of Prospect Park Lake.
On this show, we call that strapped. He was strapped all the time.
Well, we called it other things, but it was one of those things that you had to do to survive.
So what year were we talking about?
Well, we got out of there.
What year did you graduate high school, for example?
75.
All right, so in 1975, before that, you were 15, 16 years old. You were probably walking around. Like when I was in a store, we used to play that game. What the fuck are you looking at, right?
Well, it was...
You play that game?
Well, the whole thing was... The good part about it was in the neighborhood became a big influx of West Indians. And in the West Indian community, they looked down on the American blacks. Because these guys had, jobs, a lot of jobs. They would hustle, and they wanted to make a better life. The same thing when the Puerto Ricans started coming into the neighborhood and taking over the candy stores and opening up bodegas. They would work 17, 18 hours a day and make a life for themselves. And the good thing was it took the heat off of me, because if the Haitians or Jamaicans are fighting the other black kids, they're leaving me alone. So, and I gravitated towards the Puerto Rican kids.
What high school did you go to?
Brooklyn Tech. I was smart at one time.
Yeah, good.
If I didn't play football, I'd still be there.
Is that the Rambling Wreck from Brooklyn Tech?
We were talking before. You said you played.
No, I had
a football player.
Yeah.
What position?
Defensive tackle.
Oh yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
What are you, like 6'2"? I'm
6'2", yeah.
Probably especially back then before
I was
the roids.
240.
You were a big guy.
Yeah.
Before the roids? You mean?
Well, as far as predominantly in sports.
Yeah.
That was like the late 70s, early 80s, like
you
that.
Said your coach said to you, "You run like you hate the ground." I love that.
That was a good line.
The earth. I love that one. That was beautiful.
He used to tell me, "Don't trip over the lines on the court, like the basketball.
Like
court. Don't trip over the lines." He used to tell me.
That's a great line, man.
He used to put me in the game just to get to hack up the other guy. I used to go with that. I used to pick up 4 fouls in 2 minutes. I was a third string center. I used to give the two guys, whoever was starting that particular game, a break. And I used to kind of sort of beat up the other center a little bit.
That's
hit him on his hands when he's trying to shoot, scare him. That was my job.
Did you speak Spanish to him? You're fluent, right?
I speak a little Spanish, but
I thought you were fluent.
I can speak street Spanish.
Mario Benex. Mario
Benex. Listen, I speak good enough. I can get over.
Okay.
You could buy drugs and get laid.
Yeah, the same way you could probably... I know some Hebrew, by the way. Well, I know one word. Machberet. And you know how I know that? Because when I went to Queensborough Community College, and we were online. Back then, when you used to register for a class, it wasn't online. You actually stood online. It wasn't you weren't doing it on the computer. And we had to pick a language. So the rabbi comes over. He goes, "Hey, why don't you try..." We were on the line for Spanish. He goes, "Why don't you try taking Hebrew?" I said, "I'm sorry, man. I'm not Jewish, Rabbi." He goes, "You don't have to be Jewish. Come." I said, "I already know Spanish." He goes, "Listen, take my class. If you don't want to come all the time, you don't have to come. I said, how often do I have to come? He goes, you come once in a while. So I took me and my friend Paul Bustle, and we took Hebrew 1 and 2. I got a C and a D in the Hebrew 1 and 2. If you and all we used to do was come out of the cold. So I used to show up there with like, nothing. No pen, no paper, nothing. Just go sit in the class to get out of the cold, And he used to go, Mayo, where's your Mach Barrett? And I was like, I don't know, I forgot in the car, Rabbi.
Did you have to wear a yarmulke to class or no?
No. But they had this one cool day.
Because yours would have been up about this high in the air.
The cool day was when they brought the food. Every year he put out a spread. The lox, the bagels. It was nice.
Hummus.
Well, yeah, it was all
chips.
of it. That's how we got introduced to corned beef and all that stuff. From the rabbi. Wow. He was a good dude.
But see, like my son, he calls himself a Juyorican.
How old is he?
He's 18.
Oh, really? I got a 19-year-old daughter. Keep him away from her.
Yeah, he's good. Believe me, he's good. But he's a ball player.
What does
baseball,
he play? Baseball? My son played baseball, too.
And this is going to be my first...
better go to me.
This is going to be my first summer in maybe 13 years that I'm not spending being a baseball dad. Because he's taking the summer off. And
how many kids you got?
He's my blood son, and I have 3 stepchildren.
Okay.
My oldest is...
Because you had him late. What did you have him, like 41, right? 43?
I had him at 43, yeah. But my wife had 3 children, and I took on responsibility. Believe me, there were interventions that were going on in my office. I mean, you would have thought I was strung out, the way they were.
How old were the kids when you guys got together?
Well, they were 11, my son, and the girls were 7 and 5.
Wow.
So my wife and I together over 25 years. They're my kids. And my oldest is on the job now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is he a fan of police off the cuff?
I've been indoctrinating him
Where does he work?
Tell everybody, big flyers up, hand them out. He's in the 9-0.
The 9-0?
Yeah, he wanted it. I still got a couple of hooks. So I was there. He has rabbis that he don't even know about. That he doesn't even know their names.
That's a good hook to have on the job, the rabbi.
No, I'm not talking about a real rabbi. Rabbi
as a form of expression.
Okay.
Yeah,
hooks.
He's looking out for you.
It's still really good to have a rabbi, though.
But he's got
a rabbi
hooks.
that recommends you. Like, you go wherever you want.
Well, the head of the head chaplain is this guy, Rabbi Blank, who was the housing chaplain. And he's the head of all the chaplains. He has a 3-star. He's a 3-star.
Well, you are in
chief.
housing, right? Let's go back. Let's backpedal a little bit and talk about.
Let's talk about police work.
Yeah. Well, so you went to college, right? Because I know you played football.
Well, this is what happened. I had a full boat at Temple.
And then you hurt your knee.
I broke my knee in a playoff game my senior year. So so everything went out the window because it all was contingent on health. Even if you're a pro and you get a knee injury, your value is cut in half.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was going to do. Well, what I did was I went to New York City Community hung out for a year.
Community college, 13th grade.
Exactly. And I played semi-pro for a couple of teams. And then I had someone was talking about walk-on tryouts at Hofstra for the Jets. So I said, what the hell? Let me give it a shot. And I went out there, and I made the practice squad.
So your knee got better?
Oh, yeah. It healed well. And, of course, they used to shoot me up with cortisone. I wore what they call the Lenox Hill brace, which was actually the orthopedist who operated on Joe Namath for years, kept him going. Was the one who invented it.
Joe Namath, man.
Yeah, he had like 7 operations. But this guy kept him playing. And that's because of that, I was able to get on the job. Because automatic disqualification was cartilage removal. And, From
the job, you mean?
Yeah. And I asked for an appeal. And the doctor was very nice about it, but he said, son, it's written here, black and white. It's cartilage removal, whether it's from your knee or a hip or a shoulder, it's automatic. I said, can I appeal? He goes, you can if you want. So I called Nichols, who was the orthopedist from the Jets, and I called my orthopedist, and they got the medical records, and they came down to rep me. And they went in. I sat on the bench outside,
Waiting to get in the game.
Freaking out. And they were in there for about a half hour, and they come out, and both of them are smiling. And my doctor shakes my hand, my orthopedist. And
Yeah, but you're a big, young, strapping guy anyway.
it doesn't matter.
No, I know.
You
I
had
know it doesn't matter.
that
but
affliction.
If you look at what's going on in the academy right now.
Oh, yeah, well, it's sad.
You're a
It's so
former
sad.
football player.
But, again,
Where'd you go? Where did you go? Now you're able to get in the academy.
Well, they made me sign a waiver
Okay.
that I couldn't use that knee for 3 quarters unless I was to get shot in it or something like that.
Oh, all right.
So it was good.
You said you went into the academy, and then when you were part of the. It was broken up, right? It was housing.
Well, see, in those days,
what year was this?
I came off the 79 list.
79. Wow.
And
it's a long time.
And thanks. And
It is.
No, some people
It
say
is.
if you
Well, you know,
think
so
about.
I graduated high school the same year as him, 75.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I read it somewhere that says there's like a meme that if somebody asks you, you think the 70s are 30 years ago, right? Don't you think that? But it's not.
I know. It's unbelievable. You're right.
Like 40, 45
I
years
know.
ago.
it was 30 years ago at one time.
I know.
But
go ahead.
I'm coming up my 50-year high school
wow.
reunion soon. Well, you too, 75.
Yeah.
2025.
Believe me, I don't want to go back.
I know. 2025. That's unbelievable, right?
It is. It's sad. It's scary.
It's scary.
When I see when I see my oldest son, and he was in the academy, and I got to, pin his shield on him, and, it's funny. I called the shield desk. I wanted him to have my shield number, which was 2185, but it was a housing shield. See, we merged after I already became a detective. Mm-hmm. So my shield number doesn't register. There's no lineage for my cop shield number.
Right.
So I make a couple of calls and I find out that it's out there and this kid in the 6'7" has it. So I call the admin lieutenant in the 6'7", and I talk to him, and he puts me in touch with the guy. Nicest kid in the world. Mm-hmm. Nice, got 2.5 years on the job. Perfect gentleman. He says, sir, he keeps calling me sir. I said, please, don't, Mm-hmm. He says, so, sir, if that was your shield number and you want your son to have it, I'll give it up in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And, I was so touched by that. I mean, he's not asking.
That's nice because something. I think you feel personally attached to your shield.
It's good.
You do.
But
you do.
But the way he said
I wouldn't have wanted to give up my shield.
Me neither. You know why? Because now you got to remember another one.
But the way
somebody says, "What's
No,
your
but
shield?"
someone come to me, I had 2 or 3 years, and they said,
"You know how hard it took me to like this one."
My father killed a polar bear wearing that shield. I'd be like, fuck him. It's my shield.
But the funny thing is, again, the kid was so willing to do it.
Yeah, that was nice.
And he said, if I was in that situation, I would expect someone to do it for me. I was like, wow, this
It's a good kid. It's a good kid.
That's a good
you want Hebrew words?
I mean, obviously,
he was a mensch.
He's a mensch.
Okay,
I like that, man.
So now,
Andrew's getting these tears are running down Andrew's eyes.
So now, I call the shield desk, and I get it's like an acronym. I get Shirley at the shield desk.
Yeah.
Use your imagination about Shirley. Shirley's got the long fingernails just to dial the phone with a pen,
a
pencil. She's in a bad mood all the time.
Takes a lot of breaks.
Yeah, moves any slower, she'd be going backwards.
15 minutes late, then goes to breakfast.
Worse than DMV. And anyway, Shirley answered the phone, and I tell her, this is the situation. And I said, the admin lieutenant is with it. I said, it's just a 49. For those who don't know, it's just a 2 from the police department. Saying, from this cop, I'm willing to, trade shield numbers or whatever. And a 49 from
for $1,000.
and a player to be named later.
That's right.
And
what happened?
Nothing. They wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't do it. They gave me every excuse in the world. He's already been assigned a shield. So switch it. It's white out. You just got to white it out. Switch it. No, couldn't do it. But ironically, his shield is a 5-digit shield, but it has my shield number in it.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to give out his shield number. But
so it all worked out then?
Yeah. So he starts his own, but my detective shield's on hold. That's definitely on hold. Because even my youngest son
it's great
has
that
aspirations.
Your son followed your footsteps on the job. I don't know if I'd want my kids on the job.
Well, but if he would have listened to me, 11 years ago, they were calling him. He was 12 credits shy.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, I got you. You're at
How much
home.
nonsense.
I got you.
What a waste of
You
time.
know? I said, even his girlfriend at the time, said, we don't have to go out to dinner. We got bust it out. I said, the refrigerator's full of food. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
He'd definitely be a sergeant or a lieutenant by now. He'd have the 20 and out. Or we'd have a Gold Shield by now.
That was the name of Mark's show, 20 and out.
But now he's got to do 22 and a half. He came on at 33.
What are you going to do? It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
But he's happy.
Phil, how come
doing the
your
job.
sons never went on the job?
You know, it's funny, man. Neither one of my sons wanted any part of it. And I thought my oldest would have been interested. And he's actually going for his master's degree in international security. But neither one of them wanted to come on the job.
But he's interested in some form of law enforcement.
some form of law enforcement. But he worked for the Westchester DA's office for a while as an investigative analyst. But he has no interest in coming on the job.
Did you have cops in your family?
My father and my brother. Yeah.
Really?
Was that the editor one?
No, Jake, the youngest one, Jake, forget it. He's been to Paris 7 times. He's flown in private jets with celebrities. He's going nowhere near the police department. He's an assistant film editor right now.
I was the first one in my family.
Yeah, me too. My father, he wasn't a big fan of the police.
No.
As a matter of fact, on his deathbed, he said, "Mayo next," because that's my real name. He goes, "I always hated the police, but I loved you."
That's nice.
That doesn't
a
even make any
beautiful
sense.
father-son moment.
Yeah. He used to tell me, whenever I see the police, I walk across the street. But he's a dark-skinned Dominican, you know, and he went through. He was the city college and then radicalized at a young age. Right
What year did he come here?
1964.
Oh, so he was right in the thick of the
Yeah,
movement.
Man. Yeah, he was in all of it. My earliest recollections with hanging out with my dad was we used to go hang up posters of Lenin in the subway.
As in Marx and Lenin.
I'm talking about Vladimir Lenin, the Bolshevik.
Marx's partner.
He used to have the glue, and he used to have these little posters for the meetings, and he used to go, and I used to be his lookout. And I hated the fact that he put me through that, because this used to scare the shit out of
Communist
me.
Manifesto, right? That's what he wrote.
Well, yeah,
You didn't
whatever.
read any
You mean
of
what
that
Lenin
shit.
wrote?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was talking about they'd have these meetings, I guess, and he was promoting the meetings the same way I guess we do comedy in a way. But back then, instead of putting a flyer on Facebook, you have to. That's what they call post no bills. You ever see that sign? Post no bills. Yeah, so that's me and my dad.
I wonder what it would have been like to have social media as a kid.
Nah, I'm happy we didn't.
I'm glad we didn't, because
so
we
happy we
grew
didn't.
up normal.
Oh my God, what a pain
I'm so
in the ass.
scared of what's coming.
I love
I
it.
look at my
every
playing
single
outdoors.
one of us right now is addicted to it, because you're addicted to your phone, right?
Yeah, it's like your right hand.
Yeah, if you don't leave.
At the end of your right hand is going to be your phone.
Yeah.
At some point,
and water. We carry water with us.
Well, what are you going to have in a backpack with a straw right by your mouth? Because
Yeah,
you're not
we
going to
were
be able to
kids.
breathe the air.
When we were kids, we didn't walk around with water.
No.
No, even in the academy. Do you know if you're in the academy right now, they give you your own little bottle of water and has your name on it.
Are
And when you go
kidding?
to gym, everybody has their own water. Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine that, man. I could.
You know how
first of all,
hungover I used to be doing that run, especially when it came up
You
the
know
first in
something,
the
though, Mark?
morning, and in the water.
and these guys never met Skippy. Do you remember Skippy?
Yeah, Skippy.
Were you on the job when Skippy was there?
Yeah, Skippy was the guy.
The final medical.
Yeah, final
That guy was a fucking legend in the NYPD. He called everybody Skippy.
And
That's
for
how
the
he got name
psychological, they
Skippy,
had the
right?
little lady. Remember the little lady?
Oh, good.
I feel like
psychologist?
there was cameras in the room there,
Oh,
and
my
they used to
God.
watch you. And if you said something, I think that's how they psyched you out. You didn't get.
Who was
the job.
because again, I went through the housing academy. I didn't go through the PD academy. But there was a legendary, Al Gotay,
I'll go tell you. Yeah.
who was like,
Why does that name sound familiar?
He was
because
a gym instructor,
but
yeah.
he was like,
He was from housing too, I think.
yeah.
no, Gotay was,
Oh, he's
no,
like-
he
I
was
think he was a
someone-
cool dude, right?
But
He was like a karate expert.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, he was cool. I
He
remember
was
him.
some degree, and if you
Yeah, he-
messed with him, he'd take your thumb and put you on the ground.
Yeah, he
like
was,
for
I
2
think, a
seconds.
jiu-jitsu or something, because he actually went to a courtroom, a case one time, and they were trying to call nunchucks a deadly weapon. And he demonstrated them in court and practically destroyed the desk with them. And they said, I think they are deadly weapons. Yeah. After
cool,
he demonstrated them.
No, he was one of those guys whose hands were registered kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember him. He was a cool dude.
But the funny thing is now about the academy, I remember we had to swim.
Oh yeah, I remember
We had
that.
to
That was
do-
fun.
I
we
never
had to-
even got into the damn
But
pool.
you-
one
No,
time.
but
you see guys my size and they get in the water, they can't swim. It's the funniest thing ever.
no, but
they have to
They
save
have to
them.
get that
They,
little,
need, they need
You know,
lifeguards.
was it that circle thing? The life
Lifesaver.
Circle. Or that, or they used to have like a pole, a stick, and they used to stick it in the water, and you used to have to hold on to the stick and use
Hey,
the other arm.
this
to swim
isn't
across.
Navy SEAL training.
Oh my god!
No, but we had to be certified in like water rescue, like how to hold the guy up and all of that. And I'm saying to myself, my godson was on the job, and then he got inadvertently jammed up with the summons thing in the Bronx,
Yeah.
and he was 9 away from sergeant. I got him in the Yankee Stadium detail. He was doing great, and he just got so disgusted because they put him on a year's probation. They told him he hasn't got to make sergeant. 9 names, that's a guarantee. 9 names. And again, he had a BA. He was the real deal. And he decided, I'm going to be a fireman.
Oh,
so he
shit.
became a fireman. He can't swim. Now, how can you be a firefighter and you can't swim?
I don't know.
And they don't do it in the academy.
I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think firemen go into fires, right? They don't have to-
Yeah, but they also do water rescue and
What
they
if they-
got
what
the
if
fire boats.
What if the water starts building up in the room they're in, though? They
no,
gotta-
but also they go on the ice.
I think
and
the
they,
main thing, though, is the
Yeah,
fire.
is put out the fire.
If you can go into the fire, fuck the swimming, bro. I'm not going in there. It's so weird, man, because, like, every job description, there's certain things. We talked about this last week, I think. Sometimes you talk to a teacher and you find out what they have to go through, or a nurse. You're like, man, I don't know how you could do that job. It's so hard. And then like people look at us and like firemen. I took that test.
I did too. I dropped
but
right
in
out.
hindsight, it was better off that I had to stay on the PD because I don't think I could go on a fire, man.
I'll tell you a funny
I
story.
would chicken out.
It's not funny, but it's true.
People have to chicken out.
No, but this is what happened. I got called for the fire department right away, immediately. It seemed like maybe within 2 weeks of taking the test. Again, these were all 79 tests. We even went, my friends, out to Jersey to take the state trooper exam, and then they brought out the guy that looked like the Swedish guy from Rocky, who
Dolph
had a box,
Lundgren.
and we were like, we're out,
You had to box somebody?
yeah. And so we took every test. And the fire department called me right away. So you had to go to these classes because at that time there was no females. You had to go over 8-foot walls. You had to put on the Scott Air Pack and walk on a 2x4, and it's a whole lot of stuff. So you went for that training. And like you said, I played ball. I was in great shape. And it was the physical was in the Sumner Avenue Armory in Brooklyn. And the thing was one of the largest buildings I've ever seen. It looked like Grand Central Station. It's like so huge. And hot as hell. It was like you could see the like in the desert when you see the waves.
Mirage.
Yeah, that's what it looked like in there. At the end of the whole thing, now you're in groups of 7, and you start bonding with the guys you're with because you're all in the same boat. So, we're in groups of 7. At the end of the whole thing, you had to do a mile run around their track. So we were all laying there, we're throwing water on us and everything, and suddenly you hear whistles blowing and all kinds of hell breaking loose. So we look over the balcony, and there's this guy, dead as a doornail, laying there. Guy was a Green Beret. He had just gotten out, a Green Beret, just gotten out of the service. And he died doing the mile run.
Oh, God.
I said, I'm out of here. Where do I sign? And they're begging me and pleading with me. I said, no.
Yeah, but that's the thing with your
That
heart.
happens on the PD, too.
But it was something that said to me, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
If the guy did the Green Beret, he's in phenomenal shape. It's just a question of the heart.
It's
like if you have a
congenital
bad
heart disease.
disease,
Whatever.
you have a
I'm
bad
sure
ticker.
that's what happened.
And there's an electronic thing. I was teaching CPR for a while.
But in those days, there was
But-
no CPR. There was no,
But there's a thing with the heart, and if it loses its rhythm, then you go into cardiac arrest.
Right.
That's what the artificial defibrillator.
The shock, it shocks the
But
heart back
it's supposed to put it back in a certain
in
rhythm.
yeah.
And for some reason, sometimes people the heart just loses that rhythm, and that's it.
Well,
if you don't have access to
it freaked me out.
somebody to help you.
It freaked me out, and I said, I'm out of here. And they were begging and pleading with me. Because you said I was a big guy, and I said, no, this is not for me. And besides, growing up where I grew up, especially the anti-crime cops were friendly to me. In those days, they used to ride around in their own cars, or they used to use
It
recovered
was
stolen
Ralph Friedman
cars.
used to do that.
Yeah, but they used to use recovered stolen cars.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that the anti-crime cop who kind of took me under his wing was Louis Ippolito, who,
Oh God!
became
the mafia hitman cops. Yeah,
and
Those are
I worked with the other guy, Caracappa.
Yeah,
His brother,
were both in Manhattan
his brother was my
robbery.
lieutenant.
They were both in Manhattan robbery,
No,
those
but
guys.
Caracappa, his brother was a housing lieutenant.
Oh God!
So I worked with him. Anyway, make a long story short, Louis used to take me under his wing. And he would, like, if he saw me in the schoolyard late at night, they'd run through the schoolyard to grab what they could grab or whatever. They would grab me, throw me in the back of their car, drive me right home, give me a kick in the butt. And, maybe it was also a thing of when something would happen and the cops would come. And in those days, cops were all big. They were all tall because there was no height requirement.
Right.
There was a height requirement, rather.
Right?
Yeah.
5'10", 5'11". Was
He had to be over 5'8" and a half. I think that was the shortest you could
That
be.
disqualifies a lot of people.
Yeah,
And
half the job now.
Yeah.
But that being said, something would happen, in my neighborhood or on my block or the next block over, and you'd want to, you'd be looking and trying to see and look through what's going on, and don't try to ask the cop what's going on because he would just, push you out the way. But I used to say to myself, wow, they know what's going on.
Take a walk.
And I wanted to know.
We used to hang out on the corner, 47th Street, 31st Avenue. And we'd have a little radio there. We're getting fucked up. Cop car would pull up. The guy would roll down the window, the recorder. Hey, fellas, take a walk. And you know what? We picked up the radio and we started heading to the park.
That's what you're
We
supposed
were
to
going
do.
right into 10 Park. And
that's
one
what
night,
you're
my
supposed
friend
to do.
Tommy had some words. He mouthed off something. So the guy said, what did you say? The guy gets out of the car. And little did we know, but he had a...
Slapper.
Yeah, right in his palm of his hand. So he whacks my friend Tommy in the back of the head. Now Tommy's head splits wide open. And there's blood gushing everywhere. But we just keep walking. And he takes his T-shirt off. He wraps it around his head. And then we're walking to 10 Park. And at the same, it just looked like, like that 4th of July thing. Because one kid's got the radio on the shoulder. The kid's, my friend Tommy's got this
And
thing
there was
wrapped
no
around his
civilian
head.
complaint either,
And there was no
right?
drama.
Oh, shit.
No civilian complaint. He just took it like a man, right?
That's
I
what
remember
you did.
the cops brought me home once. My mother answered the door, and she sees the cop standing behind me. She just smacks me right in the face. Doesn't ask a question, nothing. What the hell were you doing? Whack. I could have been robbed.
When
I could have been taken hostage.
Premature smack.
when we were younger, like I said, growing up in that neighborhood, my brother was a child of the 60s. He's 8 years older than me. He's gone now, but he's 8 years older than me. So he fell into that, the heroin use and all of that. Probably the cleanest, healthiest looking junkie you ever saw in your life. But, because he lived at home, But his fun would be
doing heroin.
to call at 13 in our house.
You were gonna say
in
doing
our
heroin.
house. No, in our house at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Call it 13 at your house?
Yeah, so he'd pick up the phone and he'd dial 911, and he'd call 13 in our apartment just to mess with my father.
Oh, for our civilian listeners, a 1013 is
assist
a emergency call, assist patrolman for. That's the most serious assist call there is in the
Right.
police department.
Because your father, why would he do that to your father?
Because he thought it was funny.
And your father wasn't on the job, though, right? You said he
No,
was the
my
first
father
one.
was a salesman, and Dad, you get the police knock at the door.
I would have kicked that kid right out.
But no one knew he did it. He wasn't admitted. He would be laughing like.
I guess it's pretty funny, though. It really fucks up your
when you're
father's
16
sleep,
years
right?
old, he's 16 years old. You high as a kite. It is pretty funny.
Well, remember
sector
when
cars
the
pull up.
Chinese restaurants first got caller ID? And, because they would vet
Yeah.
who was orders because they were getting
Right.
robbed like left and right. And once they got caller ID, they were like, oh, these are the people that robbed us. This number here, they rob us. And we're like, oh, this is a beautiful thing. And they order again. They call us, same people. We'd set up on it.
I could tell you a funny story about that real quick.
Bring it on.
We had a rash of those robberies when I was in anti-crime and housing on the west side in the 2-4. In Douglas housing.
Yeah.
And they were called, it was like 3 Chinese takeout places, all within like 4 or 5 blocks of each other. And they would call up and they'd order like $50 worth of food.
Oh, no, bring change of 100.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That was the next thing. I only got 100. Can you break it? And they'd order $50 worth of food.
Yeah.
So the poor guy would come with the 2 shopping bags, filled with, chicken and fries,
That's right.
ketchup and hot sauce. And,
I wish I had some of that right now.
And, he'd get bopped over the head. They'd take the food, take the money, and this was going on and on and on. And we were taking off our regular, stuff to do this. So no one's making money, no one's making overtime, no one's making collars. All we're doing is following Chinese delivery boys. Mm-hmm. And the worst was, we could only be in so many. We had 2 cars. So one was a van, an extra long van, and the other was a regular unmarked RMP. So, it got to be the point that it was getting ridiculous. So one of the guys had an idea. He says, let's go down to Chinatown and talk to somebody. So we did. And we made a few inquiries on our own, right by court. And we spoke to somebody. And because, look, all these Chinese places, they pay protection.
Yep.
So we were telling them, look, you guys take care of this because you're your own people losing money. And what's going to happen is they're going to shut down. And that
so they got the money. Yakuza.
All I know is
Bruce Lee showed up with his shirt off.
3 or 4 days later, we're out there again following delivery boys, and we hear a job come over the radio for a number of men assaulted in 840 Columbus. So we respond. It was assault in progress, but it said a number of victims. So we respond, and there are 5 guys. All, you couldn't tell which body part matched who. They were all discombobulated.
Was it a machete attack here?
No. They weren't bleeding. They were bleeding internally.
Oh, good.
But
must have been Andrew Stein.
I don't know if it was what gang it was.
Wasn't even kidding,
it was
man.
Somebody that came and that was it. Condition
some
corrected.
martial art.
Condition corrected.
Street justice.
That was it. Condition
I love
corrected.
Street justice, man.
5 went to the hospital, and that was it. Condition corrected.
Beautiful thing.
And no one could ID. And it was great.
So when you went to when you graduated the academy, when did they tell you that you were going to go to housing? Was it that before you went in the academy? Obviously.
At that time, there was a 3-in-1 rule, which I don't know how the city ever got away with it, where literally they had 3 lists: a white list, a black list, and a Hispanic list. And if you were, let's say you scored a 99 on the white list, and the guy behind you is a 98. He's not going. They have to go to the blacklist and see who's the highest on the blacklist. And then he goes. And then they go to the Hispanic list and see who's the highest on the Hispanic list.
I mean,
and that's how
that's
they did
who
it.
was going to housing, you mean?
No, that's who was going on the job, period.
Oh, period. Okay.
It was 1 in 3. Now, the whole thing was you could pick housing or transit because, people were familiar with transit because everyone rides the subways.
No one would want to go to transit.
No, but I'm saying, but people are familiar with the department.
Right.
Very few people, unless you had family on the job that told you
about how, unless you lived in the projects or had, or knew about you had no idea there was a housing police. And there was a little. I was supposed to go in the July '81 class in NYPD.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is when you went to the academy, when I went in. That night, when you got sworn in, you stood on the line, you gave me a tax number, and they looked on the list, and they said, city.
Right.
Is that what they did with you?
No. What happened was, with me, I was due to go in the July '81 class. In March, there was a little blurb in the Chief. The Chief's the civil service newspaper.
Right.
And it was a little blurb that said housing had the minority quota filled. So they were looking to have a non-minority class.
Wow.
So we were a class of 55, 5 women, 2 black, no Hispanic. And we went in between. We were sworn in April 13th of '81. We were the last housing academy class, solely housing academy.
So that was a different test, the housing test?
No, we came off the regular NYPD test.
But thereafter, everyone went to the NYPD Police Academy, and they told
right, and then they were either told or picked or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but we chose the ones who were in that class. The ones that were in that class, all. Wow. And the reason I knew about it, housing, was because where I grew up, and also the fact that one of my good friends who I know prior to the job, his brother was a housing cop. And we used to, in those days, they worked specifically out of projects, different projects. And he used to do vacation relief. So he basically lived out of his trunk. So he would be, let's say, in a certain project in Brooklyn, you know, so we would go visit him, bring him food or, you know, whatever, libations, and, you know, and we'd go down in the, you know, the call room and shoot his gun into the phone books and stuff. You know, it was a great job. And, no, you wouldn't see a boss for months or whatever. And it was just a wonderful thing. We went to John Jay Annex. That's where we were trained. It was on 54th and 10th. There was a parking lot across the street, pay parking. I had a big car. Because I had been a narcotic investigator for Health and Hospital for 2 years prior. So I had prior law enforcement. And so
did that count at the end of your pension or what?
Yeah, I had to buy it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it didn't count.
So
Because it's
years,
a quasi-city agency, Health and Hospital.
So that gave you 22 years when you
23.
retired? 23.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what happened was, it was great. I used to make money because we used to carpool. And that would cover the gas and the parking. And, you know.
Which housing did you work in? In Brooklyn?
When I no, never. I never worked in Brooklyn because I never wanted the shit rate. You know, this world is too, they say New York's a big place. It's really not. It's too small. I never wanted to run into someone in Kings Plaza Mall or something that I had to deal with on the street. You know, I never wanted to go walk out or do whatever, you know, be at a restaurant with a young lady or something and run into something. It happened to me once in the city. And I wasn't carrying my gun. It was in the summer. And it was a very uncomfortable experience.
It is an uncomfortable thing when you see someone.
It turned out I had till this day, I have no idea who the guy was. But he sent a bottle of wine to my table. He came and thanked me. He said, if it wasn't for you, I'd never be here with my wife and kids today. I don't know. Maybe I printed him for someone. I have no idea. I might have given him a cigarette. I don't know. I had no idea who this guy was.
What kind of wine did he get you?
It was a good bottle. It was a good Merlot. But I'm just saying, I was telling the girl, let's drink this and get the hell out of here. Because, I'm still panicking, you know. And it just goes to show you. You never know. They remember you. They'll remember you. Sure. But,
But you know something? That's why they always tell you, always treat everyone nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, I was very fortunate. See, that's the one thing about housing. When the guys graduated the NYPD Academy, they had to go for like 2 weeks of like brain surgery to get them into the housing mode of thinking. And the housing mode of thinking was what everyone is claiming that's theirs, community policing.
Right.
Because let's face it, you were thrown into a project on foot, and every project is like a little world unto itself.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's 2 blocks away from another project. It's so different. The ethnicities, the way people act. It's like you're going from another country to another country sometimes, and
like another town.
Yeah, exactly. And the moods are different. The people are different. You know, and you'd be thrown in there, and you, again, like you said, my father always drummed this into me. You know, you get more flies with honey than vinegar.
No, absolutely.
And these old timers, because you remember. We were the first group to come in from when these guys were laid off in 75. The 73 class, there were 2, and they were huge classes. And all these guys most of them were Vietnam vets. They were like, okay, we're back, we got jobs, we're stable, we got married, we bought houses, bang, we get pink slips. So they're all just going through the paces, you know, because they're so disgruntled. And now we come and we're all full of piss and vinegar. We want to hit the streets. We brought them back to life. And these guys would teach us the right way to deal with people. You know, your mouth is your best.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Is your best weapon. And I try to teach this, instill this in my son now. And I can't even tell my son war stories anymore.
But you know what I think happened a lot? I think that when the PD became so numbers driven, and so Comstat driven, and that they threw out a lot of the good. You know, I remember you'd go into someone's apartment and they weren't the target, and you were in there for some reason, someone would see weed and lock the guy up. What was the point of that? You just made an enemy.
Exactly.
And he had nothing to do with this shooting or this murder
you know
we
what
were investigating.
I would let's say, we had to do vertical patrols, all right? And I was only in uniform for 10 months. And very rarely did I walk a foot post. If we had like double squads working, then, and even then, I tried to find the worst RMP, the one with the 2x4s holding up the front seats, and it leaked, and you had to put duct tape around the windshield and whatever.
That was all our cause.
But I'm just saying that if I could ride, I rode. If I couldn't, there were certain places I wanted to work on foot because that's where the nicest girls were, or whatever. And a lot of the projects, there were a lot of decent working class people, and that's who you were doing the job for.
Yes.
And you'd go in there, and you'd be surprised. Someone would pull your coat and say, watch Johnny over there. He's starting to hang with the wrong people or whatever. And that carried over to being, into anti-crime. And to this day, I have the same cell phone number that I've had for over 20 years. And I will occasionally...
Bought that phone from John Schlager?
My original one, yes. He's doing cars now. But that being said... I think about 7 months ago, I got a call, like 4 a.m, that someone was shot.
I don't do that no more.
And I said, okay. And I called over to the 2-3, and I got the squad, and I told them, listen, there's a guy shot over on 104th and 1st. And they're like, who are you? You're who? What?
Retired.
And I told them, listen, a former CI of mine called me. And this guy is basically telling me to go screw.
The detective?
Yeah. And I said, listen, pal, I'm just passing the information. I'm trying to do the right thing. Okay? And in the background,
you hear it come over the radio,
I hear the
right?
beeps come over with the radio. And, be units in the 2-3, be advised, we have a 10-10 male shot, 104-on-1.
Yeah, what a genius.
And I said, you're welcome. And I hung up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he may be been able to get the name of your CI, interview him.
Like I
saw more, but the idiot, the new police doesn't want to know what just happened,
and I had that happen to me quite a few times when, you had...
Because what it is, they think you're buffing out.
Yeah,
they think you're buffing.
I'm trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, but they don't. They think you're a buff.
Exactly. But look, they can think whatever they want.
It's a gift to be able to schmooze, to
I
work
could
a
still.
room.
Well, my wife's from the neighborhood.
Well, I think
my mother-in-law still up there.
All three of us probably. Andrew doesn't. No way he has that. But us three, we have that. I'm just kidding. But
Andrew will have it after the 27th episode of this.
It's a funny thing and it works really well if you can do it as a police officer. You have to be able to
get anything you want.
To bullshit your way and talk and almost politic around.
Well, that's what I taught my son. I said, listen, if you got a foot post, along a stretch of Knickerbocker Avenue or whatever, poke your head into every store.
Scotty, and those skills that you learn on the foot post stay with you when you become a detective.
Oh, without a doubt.
And then that's how it becomes your interview skills.
Yep. Yeah.
Interviewing, interrogating, that all comes from learning how to do that.
It didn't take me long. I came on the job,
Yeah.
I was 25 already, and I had a good sense of, picking up. And I wasn't out there 3 days before I knew this guy in one of the bodegas, and they had the back room over there. I used to grab a soda, go back there with a sandwich, eat, watch the game. You keep the radio on. It doesn't take you long to figure it out.
No.
But some do. It takes them a real long time. Like where I live, in the 6-1. I mean, you got to hear some of these kids, these cops, talk to people.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, if you stuck them in the 7.5, they'd be peeing in their pants, and yet they're all big and tough,
right.
over there. I mean, you should remember they used to have the A house, the B house, the C house, and of course that's not politically correct anymore.
Right.
But I don't believe you should be allowed to go to a precinct like that unless you have a certain amount of time.
Yeah, but how many people that come on the police department, day one, have no intention of ever doing police work? They come on, next thing you know, they're a captain and they're in law school.
For the bennies,
and they never did.
You think
any
anybody
police
comes
work.
on the job like that?
Yeah, I think I do.
There are a few. I haven't counted
I think
them.
you'd have to know somebody, and they'd have to tell, like your parent would have to tell you, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go on and do this, that, and the other. Because for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm like an
Well, how about
optimist or
someone that
something,
goes into the academy with 2 years on and never leaves?
Well,
These people exist.
I think they go in with this. Maybe it's in the very back of their mind. I'm going to just be careful while I can, and take advantage of those opportunities. And then when you get out, you see, oh, this is possible. I could go back to the academy and work there.
Well, the ironic thing with my son, even though he was basically 11 years older than most of his contemporaries in his class, my son's been a gym rat for years. So he's got like zero body fat. Mm-hmm. And he was pacing, at 33, he's pacing these 22-year-olds. Huh?
Does he have abs?
He's got abs.
Everyone has abs. It's just how much beer they drink, whether you can see them.
His glutes okay?
He's good. And they told him.
Shredded wheat.
No, they told him. They said, hey,
How big are his biceps?
did you ever think about becoming a gym instructor?
Part of you or what?
Yeah, it's coming out.
They asked him, if you ever think about becoming a gym instructor, give us a call. And then
who doesn't want to be a gym instructor? I mean, it's the best job ever.
I used to remember coming back to the academy for training.
First of all, the academy. I go to the academy every week because I work there I worked in the CIT. I do the acting there. But you got to see the facility's amazing. The gym.
The new one?
Excuse me.
It's like a college.
I couldn't believe it when I went.
Can I come to your class without being a member of the NYPD just to watch? It's like a show. It's like a comedy show, right?
No, it's not a show. It's not a comedy show at all, man. I'm trying to commit suicide. Every week I sit there trying to kill myself.
You playing a suicidal EDP?
Yeah, I play Suicide Cop.
Oh, okay. Oh, Suicide
and I'm
Cop.
armed.
Oh, okay.
Well, I shouldn't listen. I don't want to give it away because you have future.
Oh, EDP, by the way, for our non-police personnel is emotionally disturbed person, and they even cleaned that up to emotionally distressed person, right? Disturbed was too harsh of a word. They changed it to distressed, as if that really changes everything.
It's just a word.
I know.
I remember when they used to come in the squad and the sergeant say, "Oh, from now on, when we do your fives, you can't use this word anymore." And people used to get all pissed up. Oh, this fucking bullshit. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Just change the word.
No, they couldn't use the word housing project. It was a housing development.
Yeah.
They had to be,
I refuse to say that word.
That was ridiculous.
I choke on it.
But if you said it at Comstat, if you said I was in the project, they'd be like, "Oh my God, you mean the developments?"
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. The development.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. People getting bent on it, like,
when
don't start your five off with at TPO. Remember, every five was at TPO. Now they don't want you. They didn't want you doing that. They want you to write
sentences,
it out.
Right?
I know, but they didn't want it anymore. So, people get.
Oh no, you know what they didn't like either on the five. The undersigned, they didn't like that.
Oh yeah, that's
they wanted to say
I.
Right?
Well, what do they call it? FBI prose or something? Isn't that the way of writing?
PROSE, yes.
Yeah, that's the style of writing, and the undersigned I/O.
That's
investigating officer.
That's right.
Like if you didn't know how to write a 5 out for a particular thing, you just went through the book.
Like for an EC, when you ended EC.
We found the same exact 5.
Resnick was big on all of that shit, man. He used to. The most obnoxious thing you could do as a boss to a detective was physically write on their 5. Like, this sucks, or something. Or like, are you kidding me? And Resnick used to tell you to do that. Write on the detective's 5 if he doesn't do what you ask him to do.
See,
and the detective would freak.
You bring up Resnick.
Carbons, right?
You bring up Resnick. Resnick, again, I know for years he was the 2-3 anti-crime sergeant when I was in housing crime, and our units had such great rapport that if our boss wasn't around, he would take us so we didn't have to go in the bag. And we worked joint investigations together. We would used to hook up in Jefferson Park, and we would do our own little, you take the north end of the block, we'll take the south end of the block, we'll converge. It was like a military operation. And through my career.
This was narcotics?
Well, in housing, we didn't have a narcotic unit at the time. So we worked 5 and 2. And we had Sundays and Mondays off.
But I mean, you were the
study 3 to 11.
Narcotics?
Well, we did 3 days of narcotics, usually observation sales. Mm-hmm. We used to have, empty apartments and stuff we had with the master keys.
The OPs.
The OPs.
Observational point.
And sometimes we'd use a flash roll. You put like a 10 with newspapers around it, and because, an offer constitutes a buy. And we would do 3 days of drugs and then 2 days of robbery patterns or go out looking for guns.
Wait a minute. You said an offer constitutes a buy.
Yeah, in other words.
So give me I said, hey, do you have pot? That's a buy?
No. If you have a conversation with me and you say to me, you're looking, and you specify what you're looking for.
Yeah, I want. And the guys, I'm looking for.
I'm looking for dope. I'm looking for
40.
Yeah, whatever.
40 bag.
Whatever. So the guy says, I got. Now you take out your flash roll, okay? And then he takes out the dope to make the exchange. That constitutes a sale.
And the flash roll was just because you didn't...
Because we didn't have buy money.
Why not?
Because we were housing.
Well, first of all, they were letting you guys do buys.
Well, again,
no, that's just the purview. That's just the purview of narcotics.
But when you say letting us, there was no narcotic unit in housing, so yet the drugs were rampant. Yeah. You know, in those days we had certain spots like 112th and Lenox. That was the angel dust capital of the world. At that time,
dust is a must.
If dust is a must for the people, that's what we used to say. You know, and
man, dust. And, smoked dust once, man. I was like 15 years old. This kid Teddy, may he rest in peace. He just passed away a couple months ago. He used to write Teddy, and he said to me, he wanted to go get some smoke. So I was like, yeah, right. So he says,
how old were you at this
15.
point? Oh, 15.
Maybe 14. He says, we got to get you a bike. We got to take a ride. So he gets me a BMX bike. Now, mind you, I'm 14 years old. I've been 6'4" since I was like 6.
At birth.
So I'm like on this BMX bike, and we're in Astoria, Queens, and we start riding to get this smoke. And next thing you know, we're going over the Triborough Bridge. I'm like, yo, where the fuck is this smoke? He goes, no, we're good. It's in the Heights. So we go to Washington Heights. He runs in this building. He comes out, and then he rolls one, and then we light it up. And then I take 2 pulls on it. And I'm like, it tastes funny.
I can't feel my feet.
I said, this weed tastes funny. He goes, it's not weed, man. It's dust. I was like, what?
They didn't even use weed.
Next thing you know, all 6'4" of me is driving a BMX bike back over the Triborough Bridge. But now I'm dusted, man. It's the scariest thing I've had to do in my life.
I literally saw a kid on dust get hit by the Madison Avenue bus going northbound. The bus driver nearly had a heart attack. Kid got up and walked away.
Oh, man.
Now, I don't know what happened to the next day, but he got up and walked away.
They always used to say...
Well, I just want to it's not preface because the preface comes before. I just want to say about that story that somebody drugged me. His name was Teddy. That's not what I wanted to do. I did not conspire to do that. I was actually physically drugged, and I'd imagine the statute of limitations on that crime is over, so I can't arrest him, and plus he's dead. So
when you got interviewed for the police department, did you bring up that story?
No, somehow
that slipped your mind, that story.
This is the first time I'm remembering that story in all these years. It may not even happen. I might have just made it up. You know I'm a comedian. I can make stuff up on the spot.
But see, we had pill corners.
We're gonna take a break now. We're gonna refill our tea, even though you didn't drink tea, you drank water. I'm gonna refill my tea. No more tea for you, Bill? You're not doing tea no more?
I'm just drinking water.
All right, we're gonna go into the second half with Scott Wagner, but before we do that, we're gonna take a break.
What do we want to cover in part 2?
We want to talk about his the homicide
detective
cases.
career, Aaron Key, maybe his hostage negotiation stuff.
Let's cover that.
We don't want to talk about his antique business, do we?
Well, I don't know if he wants to talk about that. He said he wanted to.
Nah. Save that for September.
We cover everything on this show. We're like jacks of all trades here.
All right, so that concludes part 1, Police Off the Cuff here with Scott Wagner. I'm excited about part 2, man.
Cool.
Western